EPSCoR Rapid Response Research NOFO. I think we're getting some feedback on your microphone, Brent. Come in a little bit. Okay, there we go. I am Eric Wilcox. I am the statewide director for the Nevada NASA EPSCoR program, as well as the Nevada NASA Space Grant program. We have two members of our staff also here that help run the NASA programs. Darlene, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello. I am Darlene Aranda. I am the project coordinator, and I help administer the program.
Thank you, Darlene. And also with us is Marcy Jackson. She's feeling under the weather, so I'm not going to ask her to introduce herself. She's here in case there are detailed financial questions that I'm not able to answer. Marcy Jackson is director of the NSHE sponsored project and EPSCoR office at the NSHE system level, and she is currently acting as our program lead administrator, processing all the subawards and handling all the financial aspects of administering these programs for us. So what I'm going to do is, since there's only two of you here, I'm going to try to do this very briefly and then just sort of open it up for questions. But I'm going to share my screen. And just walk you through some elements of this. I usually start these by, everybody see that okay? So this is my browser, and I usually start at our website. So if you Google Nevada NASA programs, should be the first hit would be this website. This is the URL is up here, and it's hosted by the NSHE system office. And if you go to funding opportunities, that takes you to our grant funding opportunities. And then if you scroll down to for faculty, you'll see the opportunity that we're talking about here today, the EPSCoR Rapid Response NOFO. And then if you click there, it takes you to this page, which is specific to this program. So if you go down to the text here, there's sort of an overview of the program, which I'll go over in just a minute. Eligibility, which is basically NSHE faculty who are eligible. And then the funding level, which we'll talk about in a minute. All the details are in our formal solicitation document. So that's what this link here is to our solicitation document. So if you click that link, it brings up a PDF file. And I am going to switch over to oops, that's not the one, to Acrobat Reader to show you, cover that up. Okay, so this is that document. This is our request for letters of interest and proposals for the National NASA EPSCoR, our rapid response research, or what we call the R3 NOFO. These are just the critical dates, which we'll go over in a minute, and an announcement of this meeting, which we're attending. We follow a sort of standard format here where we provide our solicitations in PDF format, but we include supporting information and supporting documents as attachments. And so you can see those if you have to open it up in Acrobat instead of just in your web browser. But if you open the solicitation in Acrobat, you can click on the paperclip and you'll see these attached documents. And those include the federal NASA R3 NOFO, which we'll look at in a moment. Let me zoom in a little bit. So let me just hit the highlights here on the introduction to this. The Rapid Response R3 program has a goal to develop close collaborations between NASA, industry, and university faculty to solve specific current NASA research challenges. So this, the real goal here is to help us build capacity in Nevada to be doing NASA relevant research and facilitating interactions between researchers in our state and scientists and engineers at NASA or in industry partners of NASA. Federally, they anticipate funding approximately 30 of these awards, and each award will not be more than $100,000 for a one-year project duration. So these are relatively small awards. You can sort of think of this as something of a seed grant to help initiate a collaborative research activity with NASA. Now, the key thing about this program is that the program goal is to address a subset of NASA topics that are actually specifically listed in the national solicitation for the R3 program. So for this specific program, it doesn't really make sense to go much deeper without first taking a look at the specific topics that NASA is soliciting. So let me briefly switch over to that before I get back into the details of submitting a letter of intent. So if you go to these attachments that I mentioned before, you'll see one of these here, FY24 R3 NOFO. This is the federal national NASA NOFO for this opportunity, and I've already opened that document up here, also in Acrobat. Let me scroll to the top so you can see the cover page of that. So this has the NASA logo, and you can see there it says Rapid Response Research R3. Proposals will be due February 26. We'll talk about deadlines later. So here's the table of contents, but what we really want to do first, and we can go back and look at the details of the federal call, but as I indicated, since they're looking to fund responses to specific topic areas, it really makes sense to go straight to those topic areas and make sure that your research interests are reflected in these topic areas. So that's what is listed in Appendix 3 here, and if you click on the table of contents, it takes you straight there. And this is many, many pages. It goes on and on and on. So what you'll want to do is basically work your way through this document and see, you can see them here, and I'm just scrolling, and you can't read as I'm scrolling that quickly, but there's 80 something of these topic areas, I believe, or at least they're numbered up into the 80s. And so there are quite a lot of topics. Some of them may be somewhat generalized. Some of them will likely be very, very specific. And typically the way this program came about is that the NASA EPSCoR office, what they do is they go out or they reach out to their contacts at the NASA centers or in the NASA missions and say, hey, are there specific research needs, R&D needs that your program really needs to be successful, has a sort of programmatic or mission imperative to solve that aren't really being addressed by any of your grantees in your existing funding programs? And if so, give us those topics and we'll throw them out to the EPSCoR states and give the EPSCoR states a sort of specific opportunity to try to meet those needs. And so that's how this program came about, and that's sort of why you get this long laundry list of topics. So I'm not going to go through all the topics because there's many of them, and most of them are outside of my area, and I don't really know much about them. I'm not sure if so the table of contents actually does sort of break them down somewhat by topic area. So you can find your sort of broader topic area. So my topic area, for example, is earth science. So that's where I would go to look if there was a topic that was related to my area. So really the first step in responding to this program is going to this list and seeing if there is a specific opportunity here, either where they're specifically looking for research in a topic area that I'm interested in pursuing, or if there's some compelling way that I can shape my research program to fit in these needs. And then in a second, I'll go back to our solicitation. But one of the comments that you'll see repeated several times in our solicitation is that we strongly encourage you to reach out to the points of contact that are listed here. So just by way of example, I'll click on Earth Sciences. That's my topic area. Here are the research focus areas in Earth Sciences. I'm looking for one that has a point of contact list. There's a point of contact. So Entry Systems Modeling Project at the Science Technology Mission Directorate. That sounds more planetary than Earth Science, but anyway. There's a point of contact listed there, Aaron Brandis, with a NASA email address. We strongly encourage that if your topic area is listed here that you want to respond to, has a point of contact listed there, we strongly encourage you to reach out to that point of contact. In previous years, we actually made it a requirement, but we did have a case where somebody reached out to the point of contact and the point of contact didn't feel like it was right for them to interact with an individual proposer, which I think was a bit of a disconnect between the NASA leadership and that point of contact. But that won't be the case. In most cases, I believe that this NASA point of contact will be motivated, since they were the one who submitted this topic, they will be motivated to interact with you on your response, and you can ask them questions about, how they would like to see this responded, or you can tell them a little bit about what you're thinking about proposing and get some feedback on that idea, hopefully. So we strongly encourage you to reach out to that point of contact. We also ask that you include a letter of support from a NASA contact. So that point of contact could be somebody who provides you a letter of support for your project idea. So let me go back to the our solicitation here, just to hit the rest of the sort of requirements of responding to the first step of this. So we've talked about the goal. We've talked about the scale of these, $100,000 1 year. We talked about addressing the specific topics. That's Appendix 3 that we just talked about. We are limited in Nevada, as are each of the EPSCoR states. Each EPSCoR state is only allowed to submit up to 6 proposals. So what that means, so first of all, for that reason, we have to ask that prospective or interested faculty in NSHE submit a letter of intent to us so that we can gauge how many faculty are interested in responding to this program. If we get more than 6 letters of intent, we will have to do a down selection and pick, basically, through a peer-reviewed process, pick the 6 that will be invited to submit a full proposal, because NASA will not accept more than 6 proposals from Nevada. We may, if there are, since one of the things we'll ask you to do is to tell us which research focus area your proposal is responding to, if we get multiple responses in the same topic area or the same research focus area, we may reach out to those 2 PIs and say, hey, are you interested in trying to collaborate? If that'll help us whittle down the number. And if that doesn't get us all the way there, then as I said, we'll have to do a quick peer-reviewed down selection, which will involve me reaching out to contacts within the state, probably, to help me quickly review these letters of intent and do the down selection. So here you see in bold is again where I've stated that we strongly suggest that you reach out to the NASA point of contact that's listed in the federal NOFO. There's some details here about resubmitting if you've submitted in the past, which we can talk about if that's a specific case that applies to you. Here's some more important information below here. Some of our programs we require, some of the bigger EPSCoR programs require that there be collaboration between NSHE institutions. That is not a requirement for this program. These are relatively small projects, so we don't require there be a collaboration. Just as a technical note, these proposals get submitted to NASA by the NSHE-sponsored project office, not your department, and they get submitted with me as the PI. And that's just a programmatic way that the EPSCoR programs work. So when the proposal actually gets submitted, I get listed as the PI, but the research lead will be listed as the science PI. And this is a standard practice in NASA, and they understand that I am serving as an administrative PI, and you would be serving as a science PI. That's just how it works. The letters of intent, we'll talk about the structure of the letters of intent in just a minute. Those are due to our office December 8th by 5 p.m. Pacific time, and these are relatively small documents. So we're not asking for a full proposal, just a letter of intent. Let's see, what else do we need to? We do. Let's see, some comments about the just the one budget detail I wanted to mention. The NSHE-sponsored project office does take a very small piece of the $100,000 to help cover the administrative costs of these programs. That is $3,750. So the size of the subaward that would go to your institution would actually be just the $96,150, I think is there, $250, sorry. The difference between 100,000 and the 3,750 that goes to the NSHE project office. Other questions about the budgets. The budget will actually get prepared when the full proposal is prepared for NASA, and our office can work with Marcy Jackson to help you formulate the budget for these projects. Again, we're strongly encouraged to contact the NASA point of contact. And then for those 6 that are identified as being invited to submit a full proposal, those proposals will be due to NASA at near the end of February. Note that, and that's what's noted here, because we submit the proposals, we need some time to review them. And because we'll have 6 of them to review, we need to allow some time for our office to digest 6 of these proposals, get the budgets all reviewed, get the technical documents proofread, and typically we do send these back for some minor edits. So so we ask that you submit your proposal documents to us February 12th by 5 p.m. so that we have some time to review them before the federal deadline. Let's see, what else is here? Most of this we've already talked about. Award obligations, there are reporting obligations. We will, because I am listed as the PI of these projects, I am, and the NSHE-sponsored project office are technically on the hook for submitting the reports. There is a specific template that the EPSCoR programs have for these proposals for these projects. And so I will be communicating with you and providing that template and asking those who are funded in this program to prepare those reports in advance of those deadlines for us. Since these are one-year projects, if the project is completed in 1 year, typically the final report is due after the 1 year project period ends. It's not uncommon for us to request a 1 year no cost extension for these projects. If that's the case, then you'll be asked to submit a progress report 60 days before the 1 year end of your project. And you'll hear from us about that ahead of time. Let's talk about the letter of intent, or the letter of interest. So again, the goal here is for us to determine if there are more than 6 interested proposers. It also gives us a chance to provide some feedback on your concept before you write a full proposal. Here's a listing of what we ask for on this letter of intent, basically your name, your email address, your institution, a working title for the project that can change by the time we submit the full proposal to NASA. We ask that you identify which research focus area in that long list of topics in Appendix 3. We actually ask you to specify for us which one you are responding to. In years past, we were only allowed to submit one proposal to a particular topic area, but they relaxed that rule. So we can submit more than one proposal from Nevada for the same topic area. But again, we need to identify that topic area. And then we ask for a research abstract, a brief but clear explanation of your project goals and objectives, and the methods you'll employ to address those goals. And then we ask for a letter of support or collaboration from a NASA scientist. Just to be clear, that's open to NASA civil servants or contractors at a NASA center. And I know from personal experience, a lot of the people who work at NASA centers are not necessarily NASA civil servants. But again, the goal here is to establish connections between Nevada researchers and NASA people. So that NASA person could be a civil servant or a contractor working at a NASA center. Let me mention briefly about this, this research abstract, just as a piece of advice. Sometimes we get abstracts that are articulating a really sort of broad and ambitious research program. And if we need to select down to 6, if we get more than 6 letters of intent, we're going to be looking for a research abstract that articulates succinctly a project that is really going to fit within the scope of a 1-year, $100,000 project. So it's fine if you can articulate that your project, your proposal, fits within a broader NASA-related research theme and a broader, ambitious NASA-related goal. That's great. But be sure that it articulates a project that will fit within the scope of a 1-year, $100,000 project. Because if you're proposing to build a spacecraft, it's not going to look credible to a peer review panel that you're going to build an entire spacecraft in 1 year with only $100,000. So be sure that that project scope is appears to fit within the $100,000 1-year scope of this program. I've already talked about the review of those. And then for those 6 that are invited to submit a full proposal, here are some of the details on that. And these are taken from the federal R3 NOFO. If there's any conflict between what's written here and what's in the federal NOFO, then what appears in the federal NOFO will be the rules that we will go by. But just to summarize, these are relatively short proposals. So NASA is not expecting a full 15-page proposal like you might submit for a full multi-year research call at NASA. These are relatively short proposals with an abstract and a project description that is limited to only 2 to 3 pages. And a separate summary and a data management plan. There's a table of contents required. The scientific technical management plan, 2 to 3 pages, should include, and here they're listed here, project goals, what we call SMART objectives. This is just a rubric for determining whether the goals you're articulating are testable, quantitative sorts of objectives. a timetable for your project, a list of who the project participants are and collaborators, and then a brief description of the likely outcomes. Again, all the details are here. I won't read all of the details, but we can take questions if there are questions. Let me just, I meant to show on the letter of intent, there's a link here. If you click that link, so the first step of this is to submit the letter of intent. If you click that link, it will switch to my browser. It takes us back to this page, which is where we got the solicitation. We actually ask that you submit your letter of intent right here at this electronic link. So if you click here, it takes you to the submission page. And we ask that you actually go through this submission, because we have software that scrapes the data off of this web page and gives us a nice digest of all the submissions, your name, your email address, which institution you're at, the name of your business manager or whoever your submitting official is for your department or college. We actually ask that you identify in this drop down the research focus area that you're responding to. You can see them all there. The list goes on and on. A working title for your proposal. Again, you're not locked in. We can change that before we submit the full proposal. We asked for some keywords, and then here you could actually paste the research abstract of not more than 3,000 characters or about 500 words in this field there. And then the letter of support from a NASA contact, you can upload here. So please, if you can, submit your letter of intent submission through the website. Occasionally, we have technical issues with the website, and people run into trouble with the submission. It doesn't happen often, but does happen occasionally. You can, in that case, you can submit, you can email to me your submission as a PDF file. We will accept that as well, but I would encourage you to try to use the website if you can. If it gives you a technical error, try clearing your cookies and your cache. Sometimes that clears up the issue. And I guess the other thing that we always suggest is that you start a little bit early, so don't wait until 4:59 on the deadline day for the letters of intent to discover that there's a technical issue with the website. If you start early on the submission here, then you have some time to respond if there's a technical snafu. And I think the other advantage to you of submitting electronically here is I believe we have these set up so that you get an auto email response saying that your submission has been received, I believe. Whereas if you just email it to me, you're not guaranteed that I will see it until after the deadline. Let me go back to the solicitation. I think I'm just going to review the deadlines at the bottom. Here's our contact information for the folks in our staff that are here, me, Marcy, and Darlene. And then here's the reminder of the key dates. The letters of intent are due December 8 by 5 p.m. We're going to aim to, if we need to do a down selection, we're going to aim to try to get that done before we all leave town for the Christmas break. Full proposals will be due to us by February 12th so that we have time to review them, send them back for edits. Like I said, typically there are some edits. There'll be maybe some fine tuning of the budget, which may require going back and forth with your business staff. And we will proofread the documents and make sure all the required elements that NASA is requiring. The full proposals are there before we submit. So the February 12th deadline assures us that we have time to review 6 of these before the February 26th federal deadline. And NASA promises to, or suggests that they will be notifying of the awards roughly July 2024, but that part's completely out of our hands. And I've never seen NASA turn around a decision that quickly, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's later than July 2024. But that process is handled by NASA. With that, I've rambled on long enough. I'm going to open it up if there are any questions. I want to say hi to Kevin because I saw Kevin showed up. Hi, Kevin. Looks like you unmuted yourself, Kevin, but I still don't hear you.
I have a quick question. I was going to let the researchers go first, but if we get selected, if a PI gets selected for the full proposal, without looking at the budget template, would the budget go into you guys at 96,250?
Yeah, I mean, I can open up the budget template. It's not too complicated.
Just
yeah,
leave the
I think
leave
there's
the 3750 out.
Yeah, and I think that I believe there's a line in the budget template for that $3,750.
Okay. All right, and no budget required at the LOI stage, it looks like.
Yeah, there's no budget required at the LOI stage.
Okay. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, yeah. I guess actually I'm looking at the budget template just so you can see it. That's what it looks like. Looks like actually there isn't a space for that $3,750. So.
No, because that's just the campus budget.
Okay.
So they're going to submit that to us. And then when I submit to NASA, there's the NG budget and then the subaward budget.
Okay. Thank you for clarification, Marcy.
I was just going to say Marcy sent a chat that 96,250 is correct.
Yeah. Okay. Very good.
Okay, so I have a question regarding the LOI. So in the document, it says the 1 page max for the LOI, but in the website submission, it says 500 words max. So that, in fact, 500 words is correct?
Yeah, I would say try to stick to the 500 word limit. And
I had a undergraduate who received support from the NASA EPSCoR before, but I am new to this R3 program. Is this an annual program or is ad hoc type?
It's annual, and it's been recurring for at least the past, I would say 4 or 5 years. It's a relatively new program, but they've consistently released it every year. They've shifted the deadline. So it used to, last year we submitted these proposals in January, I think, or possibly even December. We submitted them last year. So the schedule slipped a little bit, but it's an annual program. So it'll come back again next year.
I see. Okay. So another question is that the LOI will be selected for 6 proposals. So that means the NG EPSCoR, the NASA EPSCoR, will submit the total 6 proposals to the national NASA program.
Yes.
Is that?
Yes, so that's correct.
That means we're going to have total $600,000 for the budget. Also correct?
Yes. If we have 6 proposals, then the total, but they're all submitted separately as individual proposals. I don't know if you've ever submitted to NASA federal program before, but they have a website called Inspires where you submit proposals to the federal calls. And basically, we will initiate a separate proposal within that EPSCoR system for each of the 6 proposals. So it's not like one big omnibus proposal, it's 6 individual proposals that get submitted separately.
So in terms of the process-wise, if selected among 6, then we send to you, and then you're going to swap it, and then you're going to solve it. Is that how it's going to be work?
Yeah. You'll submit to us on that February 12th deadline a full proposal document as a sort of draft, and we're going to review it, go over the budgets. We need to translate the budget as Marcy described. Our budget template is like an institutional budget that your institution will follow for managing your project. We'll have to submit a budget that includes the administrative, the 3,750, and all of that data needs to get entered into the EPSCoR's system. So there's a whole process for submitting these proposals, and we have to do it individually for 6 proposals. So yeah, we'll go through that, and you'll hear from us. So you'll submit that proposal, and we'll acknowledge that we got it, and we will likely send it back to you and say, hey, we noticed that this doesn't quite fit with the guidelines, or hey, we found we need to adjust the budget slightly. So there'll be a sort of back and forth with us before the submission, and then we can make sure that everybody is agreed that it's in final form ahead of the deadline before it's submitted.
So that's why the project description is only 2 to 3 pages.
That's in the federal NOFA. So the guidelines are. Let's see if I can find it. So this is again. This is the federal solicitation here. And somewhere there's a table in here. Yeah, so here's the table that we will be going by, and this should be consistent with what we put in our solicitation. And if it's not, then this will be what we'll go by. Scientific technical plan, 3 pages. Management plan as needed, 2 to 3 pages. So you can see the guidelines there. So this is what they ask for, and I think it's just an acknowledgement that these are small projects. They don't want to make a really onerous proposal process for a relatively small project.
Okay, got it. That makes sense. Otherwise, when I submit the NSF, it requires 15 pages. So that's why I was wondering. Yeah. Those 2 or 3 is
many of the NASA federal programs also have a 15-page technical plan, similar to NSF, but this program specifically has this shorter proposal format. Okay. And then also I'll note that Marcy has put in the chat a link to the NASA guidebook for proposers. That is the overarching document that includes all the rules for all programs. And it should be general enough that the rules that are specific to this program fit within that program as well. So if there's questions about exactly what the rules are, and suddenly there's some confusion about that, well, we may also end up referring to the guidebook for proposers, because that is the master document.
Okay, I see. Yeah, the Appendix 3, which is listed the NASA's mission topic areas, that was helpful. I contacted one of the scientists there, who is Donald at the Cleveland Center. Okay. He responded, and he positively said that he is going to support my topic of research area. So yeah, that was helpful to find the contact of person or the interest.
Okay, good. Yeah, so that's the intended goal of having those points of contact there. Yeah, so I would suggest if you could get them to provide you a letter or in some written form, some acknowledgement of their support of your concept, that you can include that with your letter of intent.
Okay, great.
And Marcy's also reminding us in the chat, and now I remember our discussion about this, the week that these proposals are due to NASA, we are due to be in Washington, D.C. for the national EPSCoR and space grant meetings in Washington, D.C. And both Marcy and I travel to Washington for that meeting. So we're going to actually aim to be submitting these proposals to NASA so that the formal NASA deadline is February 26th, but we're going to be aiming to submit these on February 23rd, no later than the 23rd of February, because we're going to be traveling that following week. So that also explains why we're looking for the full proposals to be a little bit ahead of the, or that's why the February 12th deadline is a little bit on the early side, because we need to be able to finish it up by the end of that week of February 23rd.
Okay, great. I think I have got answered the questions that I have and thank you for your seminar.
Okay, yeah, thanks for joining us. Kevin, I keep seeing your circle light up like you're trying to say something, but we can't hear you, so I don't know what's up with your sound, but if you have questions, you can either put them in the chat or you're welcome to call me or shoot me an email if you have questions. Yes, so Kevin's asking about the ISS call. This is a separate program for projects to put an experiment on the International Space Station. Yes, there will be a call for that. I used to have a page that had oh, here it is. And I'm going to put out a notification of that. That one hasn't been released yet. NASA intends to release that NOFO on January 8th. And those proposals will be due April 22nd. So that's the International Space Station program. So ahead of that January 8th, I will probably put out a separate solicitation like the one for the R3 program, which we haven't done in the past, but and there may not be more than one team that is ready to submit a proposal to the ISS, but I'll probably put a call out just to gauge, because I want to know if there's more than one team that's interested in the ISS. And those are 3-year projects for $100,000. So those are not really big grants. And so the ideal project for that is something that's sort of well developed and ready to go as an experiment on the ISS. But we can talk about the details of that when that time gets a little closer. Okay. If there are no other questions, and if Marcy or Darlene don't think of anything that I've forgotten.
We're good.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, with that, again, our contact information is at the end of the solicitation. So if there's any questions, don't hesitate to shoot me an email, give me a call on my office phone. I'm happy to discuss it further. And thanks for coming.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.